Welcome back to Battleships, and this is the USS Lionfish, a World War II submarine. Okay, now you can wave. Gail's in charge of this submarine. She's the captain. Okay, so we've switched off the Joseph Kennedy, the Joey P they called it. What a great tour that was. And now we're on to a submarine. Now honestly, this submarine has problems. Dude, seriously. That is not encouraging. You bet. Don't you love old World War II stuff? I always have. Ever since I was a kid, I love this stuff. I used to have a full collection of every Life magazine from World War II. When we sold the house and everything, we had to sell my collection. I kind of miss it. Now this, my friends, is called the conning tower. Nice. Here again, nice place to stand when you're offshore going through the swell. Front of the boat going up and down, waves coming over the deck. Okay, ready, aim, fire. Oh yeah, baby, that's pretty cool. This is the torpedo room of the USS Lionfish. In World War II, I think 52 of these submarines, of this class of submarine, were sunk. 3,500 sailors lost their lives. Actually, you had a 27% chance that if you qualified to serve aboard one of these submarines, and it's all just a voluntary basis. You had to volunteer, and then you had to qualify to serve on a submarine in order to get your Dolphin insignia. And if you got that Dolphin insignia, then you were qualified, but then you had a 27% chance of dying while you served aboard one of these submarines. So actually, per capita, the rate of death in World War II was higher, by percentage, if you were a submariner. Anyway, I probably didn't say that right, but anyway, little bit of technical stuff here as we walk down the hall and just kind of show you the inside. It had a 252 cell battery that would allow the sub to stay submerged for 24 hours. They worked in very dim light, air that was not very fresh. Once a day, once every 24 hours, the sub would have to come up, start up the diesel engines, and replenish its air and charge its batteries, the 252 cell batteries. So This is the main control room and radio room, and so we're just kind of walking through here, and we'll be getting to the engine room, which I felt was one of the most unique features of this sub. It was actually not put into service until 1944, so it was one of the last subs. It fired on, I think, a total of 3 other Japanese submarines, sunk at least one of them, was awarded the Victory Cross and several other awards. It had several very close calls with torpedoes being shot at it, and one time when it decided not to shoot, there was a Japanese cruiser that had the Red Cross draped over it, and they were supposed to not fire on the Japanese cruiser, but this story was related that a lot of the crew wanted to fire on the Red Cross, the Japanese Red Cross, because the USS Comfort had been fired on, and that was a recent event at the time. And people were still pretty upset about it because the Comfort was also flying under a flag of the Red Cross. But they say that the Japanese commander of the Red Cross boat maintained his course, did not give away the position of this submarine, and went about his business. So he was a very smart captain, didn't do anything to provoke the attack of the lionfish, and so they let him go. So here we are. I've climbed up into the conning tower and on the inside of it, and this is where the periscope is. Now you might ask yourself, how did a World War II submarine manage to maneuver when it was in battle or dealing with its surroundings, because they're in pitch black, no sense in having a window outside. So what they did was they had sonar, they had the periscopes, and they also had a series of microphones listening from all sides of the ship, so they could hear the whirl of a prop and what direction it was, and they could tell what their surroundings were by just listening to those microphones. And I just found that quite amazing. Hey, there you go. Gail, their washer dryer ain't much bigger than yours.
Really?
Yeah. For a whole matter of fact, it isn't any bigger than yours. Wow. And so now we get to the engine room, or one of the engine rooms. What I found interesting was this was the first practical application of a hybrid system that I've actually seen, even though I found out later on that this system was actually designed for trains originally. But what it is you have a motor attached to a great big DC, direct current, generator. That generator is then plumbed to electric motors and to batteries. Now here's something that's completely off the wall. This motor is upside down. That's the crankshaft. That's supposed to be at the bottom of the motor, and here you have the crankshaft at the top. I see all the copper tubing in the motor, which must bring the engine oil over the bearings. It probably sprays the oil, and it also routes the oil through the bearing journals. But it's got the cylinder heads down here at the bottom. Now, I cannot, for the life of me, find anything on the internet that tells you why this was an advantageous design. Just everything's working against you. The engine oil is on top of the pistons. It's going to leak down into the combustion chamber. It could hydrolock the engine. I just cannot imagine. I can think of all kinds of bad things that can happen from this design. But in any case, in World War II, these subs were equipped with 4 of these upside-down motors, upside-down diesel motors, and then 2 electric motors. You could run the current from these motors directly into the electric motors, or you can recharge the batteries, or a combination of both. A little bit like a Prius, only with the Prius you do have the engine will also drive the drive shaft, which this won't. The motors just spin the generators, and the generators are what power the electric motors, so that there's no direct drive shaft connection. This is the control room, and where they control the voltage and the amps and of all four of the diesel generators. So let's just call them diesel generators. That's probably what they call them. And then they also control the motor output. So the motors are attached to the propellers, which make it go. Finally, this is the part I was concerned about, because when we went through a Russian submarine, they used the same porcelain toilet that we had on our last boat. I can't remember the manufacturer's name.
Okay, Steve, I see a door right ahead of you. Go over there and show me how you're going to get through that door.
Oh, this?
Yeah.
Oh, it's really not a problem for someone as agile as myself.